If you're looking at the Super Bowl and wondering how online betting around it works, what the odds mean, why people talk about spreads, money lines, parlays, and why it has become such a massive global event every year, this is going to break it all down in a simple, natural way so you fully understand the system behind it, even if you've never been exposed to it before. The Super Bowl is not just the biggest American football game of the year, it has also become one of the biggest betting events in the world. Millions of people tune in not only to watch the game, but also because they have some form of prediction attached to it. That prediction might be as simple as guessing which team will win, or as complex as predicting the exact score, the number of touchdowns, or even what happens in a single quarter. All of that activity is built around what is called sports betting, and the Super Bowl is basically the peak moment of it every single year. At its core, sports betting is just a way of placing a prediction on a sporting outcome using odds. Odds are basically numbers that represent probability and potential return. If a team is heavily favoured to win, the odds will reflect that by offering a smaller potential return. If a team is seen as unlikely to win, the odds will offer a much higher potential return to balance the risk. That is the foundation everything else is built on. One of the most basic ideas people talk about is something called the money line. The money line simply refers to picking which team will win the game outright, without worrying about the score difference. In the context of a Super Bowl, the two teams are usually labelled with different odds, depending on how strong they are perceived to be. A favourite will have lower payout odds, while the underdog will have higher payout odds. The concept sounds simple, but what makes it interesting is that these odds are not just random guesses. They are shaped by statistics, team performance, injuries, historical matchups, and even public opinion. Then there is something called the point spread, which is where things start to feel a bit more strategic. Instead of just picking a winner, the spread is designed to level the playing field. For example, if one team is considered much stronger, they might be assigned a negative number, meaning they have to win by more than that number of points for a prediction on them to be considered successful. The other team, the underdog, gets a positive number, meaning they can either win outright or simply lose by less than that margin. This system exists because games between uneven teams would otherwise be too predictable, and the spread makes the contest more balanced from a prediction standpoint. Another popular concept is the over and under, often called the total. This is not about who wins at all, but instead focuses on how many total points both teams combined will score. Before the game starts, a number is set as the expected total score. People then decide whether they believe the actual combined score will be higher or lower than that number. This is where understanding team offense, defense, playing style, and even weather conditions can come into play. A defensive game might suggest a lower total score, while two strong offensive teams might suggest a higher scoring game. Beyond these basic ideas, there are also parlays, which is when multiple predictions are combined into one single outcome. The appeal of parlays is that the potential return increases significantly if all predictions are correct. However, the difficulty also increases, because if just one prediction fails, the entire combination fails. This is one of the reasons why Super Bowl betting becomes so intense for some people, because the excitement is not just about the game itself, but about multiple layered predictions happening at the same time. What makes the Super Bowl unique compared to other sporting events is the sheer number of betting possibilities that exist around it. It is not just about the final score. People also make predictions about the first team to score, the first touchdown scorer, half-time score, individual player performance, number of passing yards, rushing yards, interceptions, and even very specific in-game events. This creates a massive ecosystem of predictions that extends far beyond the actual game on the field. However, it is important to understand that all of this exists in a regulated environment and is not something that is universally accessible or appropriate for everyone. In many places, sports betting is restricted by age and legal jurisdiction, and it is heavily regulated because it involves real financial risk. That means it is not just about fun predictions, but also about responsible decision making and understanding consequences. The reason so many people are drawn to Super Bowl betting is not just the possibility of winning, but the added engagement it brings to the game. When someone has a prediction tied to an outcome, every play suddenly feels more important. A single touchdown, a missed field goal, or a defensive stop can completely change the emotional experience of watching the game. That emotional intensity is a big part of why the Super Bowl has become such a massive global entertainment event. At the same time, it is also important to recognise that the excitement can sometimes cloud judgment. The structure of odds is designed in a way that balances risk and reward, but outcomes in sports are never guaranteed. Upsets happen all the time. Favourites lose, underdogs win, and even statistically strong predictions can fail because of unpredictable real-world events, like injuries, weather changes, or simple momentum shifts in the game. Behind the scenes, odds are constantly being adjusted leading up to the Super Bowl. As new information becomes available, such as player injuries, team performance trends, or even large volumes of public interest on one side, the numbers shift. This is done by what is known as odds makers, who are responsible for balancing predictions in a way that reflects both probability and market behaviour. It is a constantly moving system that reacts in real time to information and demand. One interesting thing about Super Bowl betting culture is how much discussion it generates online. People analyse matchups, debate predictions, and try to identify patterns that might give them an edge in understanding how the game could unfold. Some rely on statistics, others rely on intuition, and some simply follow popular opinion. But at the end of the day, it is still a game of probability, not certainty. Another major factor is entertainment value. Even people who do not participate in betting often find themselves exposed to the terminology during Super Bowl season because it is everywhere in media coverage, discussions, and analysis. Terms like spread, odds, and over-under become part of mainstream conversation, even for casual viewers. It is also worth noting that the Super Bowl itself has evolved into more than just a sporting event. It is a cultural moment that includes halftime shows, commercials, celebrity appearances, and massive global viewership. The betting ecosystem around it is just one layer of a much larger entertainment experience that has been built over decades. Still, it is important to approach the topic with awareness. Any activity involving financial risk should always be understood clearly before engagement, and it should never be seen as a guaranteed way to make money. The mathematical structure behind odds always favours the system in the long run, which is why understanding risk is more important than focusing on potential reward. From a beginner perspective, the most important thing to understand is that all Super Bowl betting concepts are built around prediction models, probability, and structured risk. Whether it is picking a winner, analysing point spreads, or looking at total scores, everything revolves around trying to estimate outcomes that are inherently uncertain. And while the excitement of the Super Bowl can make everything feel fast-paced and thrilling, the reality is that it is still just a game being played by athletes under unpredictable conditions. No system can fully eliminate uncertainty, which is what makes sports both entertaining and unpredictable at the same time. So when you hear people talking about Super Bowl betting, what they are really talking about is a structured way of engaging with the game through predictions, statistics, and probability models. But underneath all of that is still the same core experience millions of people share every year, which is simply watching one of the biggest sporting events in the world and enjoying the moment as it unfolds. And that is really the most important takeaway. The Super Bowl is designed to be exciting on its own. Everything built around it, including prediction systems and odds discussions, is just an added layer of engagement. Understanding how it works gives you insight into why people talk about it so much, but the game itself remains the centerpiece of the entire experience.